Lesson 1. Control what you can, accept what you cannot. Imagine waking up tomorrow and everything feels out of control. Your plans are cancelled, the weather turns against you, people's words sting, and unexpected problems land on your lap. Most people would spiral into frustration, anxiety, or even anger. But Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, would not. His secret? A simple, almost brutal clarity about life. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This first lesson is the cornerstone of inner peace. Marcus lived in a world far more chaotic than ours. Wars at the empire's borders, political betrayal in the Senate, disease sweeping through cities. And yet, he learned to remain calm by making one critical distinction. Some things are within your control, and others are not. That's it. This mental filter, when applied consistently, transforms how you experience reality. Here's the truth. Most of our emotional suffering comes from trying to control what we can't: the weather, other people's opinions, the economy, traffic, the past. The Stoics compared this to trying to command the wind. It's futile and exhausting. Marcus teaches us to turn our attention to what's truly in our power: our thoughts, our choices, our actions, and our attitude. Think about it. You can't stop someone from criticizing you, but you can choose whether to be offended. You can't stop the rain, but you can decide to take an umbrella and enjoy the sound of droplets on the roof. You can't rewrite yesterday, but you can act differently today. Every moment you spend fighting what you can't change is a moment stolen from building the life you can influence. Marcus Aurelius didn't just preach this, he practiced it daily. He wrote in his journal, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." He wasn't obsessed with what people thought of him or with forcing the world to bend to his will. He worked tirelessly to fulfill his duties as emperor, but he knew the outcome wasn't always his to decide. This mindset freed him from unnecessary turmoil. If you want unshakable peace, start by asking yourself 2 questions in any situation. Is this within my control? If not, can I accept it without resistance? This is not passive resignation. Acceptance doesn't mean you give up. It means you stop wasting energy fighting reality. That energy can be used to take purposeful action where it actually matters. Try this small but powerful exercise tonight. Take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, list what's troubling you right now. On the right side, label each as "in my control" or "not in my control." Commit to acting only on the first list. Everything else, let it go. Even if you have to remind yourself 100 times a day, you'll notice the grip of anxiety loosening. When you master this first lesson, life feels lighter. You stop feeling like a victim of every twist and turn, and instead become a steady presence, a calm eye in the storm. And here's the beauty: when you're no longer drained by the impossible task of controlling the uncontrollable, you have more strength, patience, and clarity to handle what you can influence. Marcus knew this wasn't a one-time revelation but a daily discipline. He faced betrayal, loss, and uncertainty with the same mental anchor: does this lie within my power? And if it didn't, he released it. That's why, even under the crushing weight of the Roman Empire's burdens, he could still write words that inspire us nearly 2,000 years later. Because true peace doesn't come from the absence of problems, it comes from the mastery of your own mind. In the next lesson, we'll explore another of Marcus's timeless truths: how living according to your values, and refusing to betray them, builds a fortress of inner strength that no storm can tear down. Lesson 2. Live by your values, no matter the cost. Picture this. You are the most powerful person in the world. Your word is law, armies obey your command, wealth flows into your hands. It would be so easy to bend your morals, to cut corners, to betray your principles just for convenience. But Marcus Aurelius refused. Why? Because he believed that living without virtue was the surest path to misery, no matter how much power or wealth you possessed. He wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This wasn't a slogan to impress others. It was a personal oath, a line he would not cross. For Marcus, peace of mind came from knowing that he had acted in harmony with his deepest principles, even if it meant sacrifice. Why does this matter for us today? Because every time we compromise on our values, whether it's telling a small lie, ignoring a promise, or acting out of selfishness, a part of us feels it. The mind may try to justify it, but deep down, our conscience keeps score. Over time, this erodes our self-respect and fills us with quiet anxiety. Living by your values is like building a fortress inside yourself. When you know you've acted with integrity, criticism bounces off you more easily. You don't spend sleepless nights replaying your choices, wondering if you betrayed yourself. You feel grounded because you're not chasing approval, you're standing on the solid ground of your own convictions. Marcus Aurelius had every excuse to put survival and politics above principle. But he knew that power and reputation are fragile, they can vanish overnight. Character, on the other hand, is unshakable if you choose to protect it. That's why he often reminded himself, never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect. So how do we live this out in the modern world? Define your values clearly. You can't live by your principles if you don't know what they are. Take time to write down your core values: honesty, courage, kindness, fairness, whatever resonates most deeply. This is your compass. Test your actions against your values. Before making a decision, ask yourself, does this align with the person I want to be? If the answer is no, the Stoic path is clear: don't do it. Accept the cost. Standing by your principles may cost you approval, money, or opportunities. But the price of betraying yourself is far greater. Make integrity a habit. Virtue isn't built in a day. It's 1,000 small choices: telling the truth when it's uncomfortable, keeping promises when it's inconvenient, refusing to speak ill of others even when they've wronged you. Living by your values is also the ultimate shield against regret. Marcus knew that fortune could turn at any moment. Armies could be lost, allies could betray him, health could fail. But no one could ever take from him the knowledge that he had done what was right. That inner certainty is one of the purest forms of peace. And here's the hidden benefit: when you live consistently with your values, people trust you. They may not always agree with you, but they know where you stand. Your word carries weight. Your presence inspires. And you become a rare kind of person in today's world, someone whose integrity is unshakable. Think of it like building an inner citadel, a mental stronghold that protects you from the chaos of life. Storms may rage outside, but you remain steady inside because you're anchored to something deeper than circumstances. The next time you're tempted to compromise, just this once, remember Marcus's example. Ask yourself, when I look back on this moment, will I be proud of how I acted? That question alone can change your decision and your life. Because peace isn't just the absence of conflict, it's the presence of self-respect. And when you have that, the noise of the world fades. In the next lesson, we'll explore another core Stoic insight: why your happiness should never be at the mercy of other people's opinions, and how to free yourself from that invisible prison once and for all. Lesson 3. Stop letting other people's opinions control you. Marcus Aurelius ruled over an empire where every decision he made was judged, not just by his advisors, but by the Senate, the military, the citizens, and even foreign rulers. Imagine living under that constant scrutiny, where a single misstep could be magnified into a scandal. Yet in his private writings, he reminded himself over and over, I have to go my own way and follow my own nature. He knew something we often forget: the moment you hand your peace of mind to the opinions of others, you become their prisoner. It starts subtly. You change how you speak to fit in. You avoid saying what you truly believe to avoid criticism. You make decisions not based on what's right, but on what will get you the most approval. And without realizing it, you've given away the steering wheel of your life. The Stoics were clear: your worth is not defined by the applause or the disapproval of others. As Marcus put it, it never ceases to amaze me, We all love ourselves more than other people, but we care more about their opinion than our own. Think about that. We know our own heart, our own struggles, our own intentions better than anyone. Yet a stranger's passing judgment can ruin our day. Why? Because we've been conditioned to think that validation equals value. Here's the truth the Stoics live by: external opinions are outside your control. And if they're outside your control, they should never be the foundation of your happiness. So how do you break free from this invisible cage? Remember the source. Ask yourself, does this person live the kind of life I admire? If not, why give their opinion so much power? Anchor yourself to your own principles. When you know what you stand for, criticism feels less like a personal attack and more like background noise. Accept that you can't please everyone. Marcus ruled Rome, and still, not everyone liked him. If the emperor of the world couldn't win universal approval, neither will you. Recognize the short memory of the crowd. Today's praise or outrage is tomorrow's forgotten news. Why sacrifice your peace for something so temporary? There's a moment in Marcus's meditations where he tells himself that even if the entire city turns against him, it doesn't matter, as long as he remains in harmony with virtue. That's the key. The inner scoreboard matters far more than the outer one. Freeing yourself from the chains of other people's opinions isn't about arrogance or ignoring feedback. It's about choosing whose voice matters in your life, and making sure your own voice is the loudest in your own mind. When you stop living for approval, something magical happens. You become bolder. You speak more honestly. You make choices that align with your deepest values, not with the shifting winds of popularity. And ironically, people often respect you more for it. But here's the real reward: peace. When you no longer fear disapproval, you walk through life lighter. You're not weighed down by the impossible task of pleasing everyone. You can focus on living well, instead of performing for the crowd. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that those who judge you will soon be gone, just as you will be. Their voices will fade, but your own conscience will stay with you until the end. So make sure it's a voice you respect. In the next lesson, we'll dive into a cornerstone of Stoic thinking, understanding the limits of your control, and why mastering this distinction is the fastest way to unshakable peace in a chaotic world. Lesson 4. Master the art of control, and let go of the rest. Marcus Aurelius lived in a world that was, in many ways, far more dangerous and unstable than ours. Wars on the borders, political intrigue in the Senate, plagues in the cities, and betrayal often coming from those closest to him. Yet when you read his meditations, there's a calm that runs through every page. It's as if he carried a still pond inside him, untouched by the storms raging outside. How? He had learned one of the most liberating truths a human being can discover: some things are within my control. Everything else is not. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. And it's deceptively simple. Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, these belong to you. The weather, the economy, other people's opinions, fate itself, these do not. The moment you confuse the two, you suffer. When you try to control the uncontrollable, frustration becomes your daily companion. When you refuse to control what is yours, chaos seeps into your soul. Marcus knew he couldn't control whether his generals betrayed him, but he could control whether he reacted with wisdom or with blind rage. He couldn't control whether the plague swept through Rome, but he could control whether he met the crisis with courage or despair. The Stoic way is not about indifference to the world, but about focusing your energy where it can actually make a difference. Let's break this down into something you can apply right now. 1. List what's in your control. Your attitude. Your words. The effort you put into your work. The way you treat people. Your willingness to learn. These are yours, fully and completely. 2. List what's outside your control. Traffic. Weather. Other people's reactions. The outcome of an election. Whether your boss is in a good mood today. 3. Make the separation. When something bothers you, pause and ask, is this in my control, If yes, act with purpose. If no, let it go. Not with bitterness, but with the peace of knowing it was never yours to hold in the first place. Marcus himself wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. It's not a poetic metaphor. It's the blueprint for a life that cannot be shaken. Here's the paradox: the less you try to control the uncontrollable, the more influence you often end up having. When you focus on being calm, prepared, and intentional, your example inspires others. You become a leader without forcing it. But there's another layer to this lesson: acceptance. Letting go of what you can't control isn't passive resignation. It's an active choice to meet reality on its own terms. The Stoics didn't believe in fighting the river's current, they believed in steering skillfully within it. Imagine if, from this day forward, you stopped pouring your energy into changing things that resist your will. Instead, you direct that energy toward mastering yourself. Think of the mental bandwidth you'd reclaim, the stress you'd avoid, the clarity you'd gain. Marcus was not a man of idle words. His empire was vast, and yet he managed his inner life as carefully as a gardener tends to his own small plot of land. He weeded out unhelpful thoughts, watered the seeds of virtue, and pruned away the dead branches of resentment over things he could never change. Ask yourself right now, where in your life are you still trying to control the uncontrollable? Is it a relationship where you're waiting for the other person to finally change? Is it the past, replaying in your mind, as if wishing it were different will somehow rewrite it? Is it the future, worrying about what might happen months from now? The Stoics would tell you, release your grip. You were never holding those things in the first place, they were holding you. Here's the final gift of this principle: when you focus only on what's in your control, you always have something you can do. You're never powerless. You may not be able to stop the storm, but you can anchor your boat. You may not be able to cure the illness, but you can choose to meet it with courage. You may not be able to change someone's opinion, but you can speak with integrity. And when you live like this, you find a strange, powerful freedom, the kind Marcus Aurelius carried through battles, betrayals, and loss. The freedom of knowing that while the world may move in ways you cannot predict or command, your mind is still yours. In the next lesson, we'll explore how Marcus cultivated that mind, not just to withstand life's challenges, but to remain steady and compassionate in the middle of chaos. Lesson 5: Train your mind before the battle begins. One of Marcus Aurelius's greatest strengths wasn't his armies, his wealth, or his political power. It was his ability to prepare his mind before life storms arrived. He didn't wait until the crisis hit to decide how to respond. By then, it's often too late. He understood a truth that's as relevant now as it was in ancient Rome: you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. When the pressure is on, your body and mind default to the habits you've already built. That's why Marcus cultivated mental discipline every single day, not just in moments of crisis. Anticipate the day ahead. Marcus would start his mornings by reminding himself, "Today I will meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." He wasn't being pessimistic, he was being prepared. If he expected only sunshine and cooperation, he'd be caught off guard when the clouds rolled in. But by anticipating human flaws, his own and others, he disarmed their ability to shock him. You can do the same. Before you step into the world each morning, run through the possible challenges you might face. Will someone cut you off in traffic? Will a colleague criticize your work? Will a family member test your patience? Expect it. Then decide, ahead of time, how you'll respond. Practice mental rehearsal. Athletes visualize their moves before stepping into the arena. The Stoics did the same, but for life. Marcus would imagine scenarios where things went wrong: an unexpected loss, a betrayal, a political setback. Then, he would picture himself responding with calm, reason, and dignity. This practice, called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, made him almost unshakable when reality mirrored his rehearsals. When you've already lived the challenge in your mind, the real thing feels less overwhelming. It's not about expecting the worst, it's about being ready for it. Strengthen your calm reflex. The mistake most people make is thinking they can develop self-control only when they need it. But self-control is like a muscle, it grows through repeated, deliberate use. Marcus trained his calm in small ways, tolerating discomfort without complaint, delaying gratification, choosing silence over unnecessary arguments. These small, daily tests became the foundation for handling bigger challenges. If you can keep your composure when your coffee order is wrong, you're building the same muscle you'll need when life delivers truly difficult news. Don't outsource your peace. Marcus never relied on perfect conditions to feel steady. He didn't think, "I'll be calm when the empire is running smoothly." He practiced being calm while dealing with chaos. If you tie your inner peace to external stability, you'll be waiting forever. The Stoic way is to create stability within yourself, so that no matter what's happening around you, you remain grounded. Guard your mental environment. The mind is like a fortress, but only if you defend it. Marcus was careful about what he allowed into his thoughts. He avoided gossip, meaningless disputes, and distractions that drained his focus. He knew that what you feed your mind determines its strength. In today's world, this means curating what you consume, from social media to conversations to the books you read. Ask yourself, does this strengthen my mind, or weaken it? Why this matters. When the real tests come, and they will, your response will depend entirely on what you've been practicing in the quiet moments. If you've been training your mind, your first instinct won't be panic or anger, it will be clarity. You'll take a breath, assess the situation, and act in line with your values. The storms will still rage, but you'll navigate them like a seasoned captain who has studied the sea, tested his ship, and learned to trust the helm in his hands. Marcus Aurelius didn't become unshakable by accident. He became unshakable because he prepared for the battle before it began. And that's a habit anyone, you included, can start today. Lesson 6. Balance strength with compassion. When people think of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, they often imagine a figure of immense authority, a ruler commanding armies, passing laws, and governing one of the largest empires in history. But behind the title of emperor was something far more rare, a man who could combine unyielding strength with deep compassion. This balance is what made his peace so unshakable. Strength without compassion becomes cruelty. Compassion without strength can turn into weakness. Marcus walked the razor's edge between the two, and it gave him the ability to act decisively without losing his humanity. Led without arrogance. Marcus Aurelius held absolute power, yet he constantly reminded himself that he was just a man, no better than anyone else. He didn't allow his position to corrupt his judgment or inflate his ego. In his meditations, he wrote, "Don't be overheard complaining, not even to yourself." This wasn't just about avoiding negativity, it was about staying humble, no matter how high he stood. For us, this lesson is just as critical. The moment we believe we're above others, we stop listening, we stop learning, and we stop growing. True strength doesn't shout its superiority, it proves itself through action and fairness. See the human in everyone, even in your enemies. It's easy to dehumanize those who oppose you. Marcus faced political rivals, backstabbers, and even traitors, yet he tried to see them as people driven by their own fears, desires, and ignorance. By seeing them as flawed human beings rather than villains, he kept his mind free from the corrosive poison of hatred. You can do this, too. The next time someone wrongs you, resist the instinct to label them as bad. Instead, ask, what might they be struggling with? What pain or belief drives their actions? This shift doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it frees you from being consumed by bitterness. Protect your peace by controlling your response. Marcus didn't believe in letting emotions run the show. If someone insulted him, he didn't immediately retaliate. He paused. He assessed. He acted only if it served the greater good, not his ego. He understood a truth many people miss. You don't need to attend every battle you're invited to. We often think we need to win every argument or prove ourselves right in every conflict. But this is just another trap. It drains our energy and fractures our peace. Choosing silence or a calm, measured response isn't weakness, it's mastery. 4. Use power to serve, not to dominate. Marcus believed leadership was a responsibility, not a privilege. Every decision he made had to serve the people and the empire's stability, not his personal gain. He saw himself as a steward of something greater than himself. You don't need to be an emperor to follow this principle. Whatever power you have, in your job, your relationships, your community, use it to uplift others. When your actions serve a higher purpose, you find a deeper, more lasting sense of peace than any personal victory could provide. Practice forgiveness as an act of strength. Forgiveness wasn't weakness in Marcus's eyes, it was proof that he was strong enough to rise above pettiness. Holding grudges is easy. Letting go requires courage. Marcus wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When you forgive, you're not saying what happened was acceptable. You're saying, "You no longer control my mind." That's freedom, and it's at the heart of unshakable inner peace. Why this lesson matters today. In our modern world, strength is often mistaken for dominance, and compassion is often mistaken for naivety. But Marcus Aurelius showed us that the greatest power lies in blending the two. When you are strong enough to set boundaries and compassionate enough to see others' humanity, you become unshakable. You can navigate conflicts without losing your values. You can face opposition without losing your calm. And you can lead, whether in your family, your workplace, or your own life, without letting ego or bitterness take over. True inner peace isn't about avoiding challenges, it's about facing them with both steel in your spine and kindness in your heart. That's the Stoic way. Lesson 7. Master the art of perspective. One of Marcus Aurelius's most profound abilities was his gift for perspective. No matter how chaotic, dangerous, or stressful a situation became, he could step back and see the bigger picture. He knew that most of the things we allow to disturb us are far smaller in the grand scheme of life than they seem in the moment. This skill didn't make his problems disappear, it made him bigger than his problems. See life from above. Marcus would often remind himself to imagine looking down on the earth from high above. From that distance, his personal struggles, the endless politics of the Roman court, even wars, looked small. In Meditations, he wrote about imagining himself as part of the vast flow of time, one tiny human among countless generations. Why? Because it kills the illusion that your current hardship is the end of the world. It shrinks your problems down to their real size. Try it. Whatever is stressing you right now, picture it from the view of the stars. Does it still feel as heavy? Don't magnify the small things. We live in an age of instant outrage. A comment online, a traffic jam, a late reply to a text, people let these minor irritations consume their mood for hours or days. Marcus's wisdom here is simple. Don't give small things the power to ruin a big life. He understood that most stress comes not from events themselves, but from the meaning we attach to them. If you can stop yourself from overinflating small inconveniences, you protect your peace like a fortress. Remember, this too shall pass. No matter how intense the storm, Marcus reminded himself it was temporary. He survived plagues, military revolts, and personal loss. Yet he refused to sink into despair, because he knew all things in life are fleeting. The Stoic approach isn't to pretend pain doesn't hurt, but to remember that pain is not forever. When you remind yourself that time changes all things, you loosen the grip of fear and anxiety. Suddenly, you can face hardship with patience instead of panic. Keep your focus on what's truly important. Perspective is about clarity. Marcus didn't waste energy on gossip, petty politics, or other distractions that pulled him away from his duties. He constantly filtered his actions through a simple question: will this matter in the long run? If the answer was no, he let it go. You can apply the same filter today. Will this argument, this delay, this mistake still matter a year from now? If not, let it dissolve. That's how you save your energy for what really matters. Balance ambition with acceptance. Marcus wasn't passive, he was a man of action. But he also knew the limits of his control. Perspective means understanding that while you can work hard and aim high, you cannot bend the universe to your will. By accepting what is outside your control, you release yourself from constant frustration. You can still strive for greatness, but you do it from a place of calm determination, not desperate attachment. Why this lesson matters today? The modern world is a machine designed to magnify the small and distract you from the big. Social media thrives on outrage. News cycles focus on drama. But the Stoic perspective cuts through the noise. When you master perspective, you stop being a prisoner to every problem, insult, or inconvenience. You see the bigger picture, you choose your battles, and you stop wasting your emotional energy on things that don't matter. Marcus Aurelius didn't just survive as emperor, he thrived in one of history's most demanding roles because he could step back, see clearly, and act with calm purpose. You can do the same. And when you do, your peace stops being fragile and starts becoming unshakable. Lesson 8, Discipline, the silent strength behind inner peace. When most people hear discipline, they think of rules, restrictions, or military drills. But Marcus Aurelius understood discipline in a deeper, almost spiritual way, as the invisible framework that supports your freedom, your peace, and your happiness. Without discipline, you are at the mercy of your impulses and emotions. With it, you become the master of your life. Discipline creates stability in a chaotic world. As emperor, Marcus faced constant crises, wars on the borders, political intrigue, economic challenges. Yet despite the storm around him, he stayed steady. His secret? A disciplined mind and daily structure. He rose early, not because it was fashionable, but because it gave him control over his day before the demands of the empire swallowed his attention. He practiced restraint in speech, not wasting words on gossip or anger. He disciplined his thoughts, keeping them aligned with reason and virtue. This structure acted like the pillars of a building, invisible to outsiders, but essential for holding everything up. Small acts of discipline have huge power. Marcus didn't need grand heroic gestures to prove his strength. He found power in the small, repeated acts of self-control. Simple things. Writing in his journal daily. Maintaining composure during arguments. Choosing honesty over flattery. Resisting the temptation to act out of revenge. These small moments shaped his character. And here's the truth, your peace is not built in one big moment, it's forged in these tiny, daily victories over your weaker impulses. Discipline protects you from emotional chaos. Have you ever noticed how much anxiety comes from overindulgence, staying up too late, overeating, scrolling endlessly, wasting time on things that drain you? Marcus would say this isn't just about bad habits, it's about giving away your control. He believed that the person who cannot govern themselves will always be ruled, not by other people, but by their own moods and cravings. True freedom, he taught, is doing what you know is right, even when you don't feel like it. When you live with discipline, you reduce regret. And regret, more than hardship, is what poisons the mind. Routine as a fortress for the mind. Marcus treated his daily routines like armor. The repetition wasn't boring, it was freeing. By deciding in advance how he would act in certain situations, he spared himself the endless stress of decision fatigue. For example, starting the day with reflection on virtue. Greeting challenges as opportunities for growth. Ending the day with gratitude, no matter how difficult it had been. You can do the same. Decide today how you'll respond to criticism, to failure, to unexpected obstacles. Then when life tests you, you won't need to scramble, you'll already have the blueprint. Discipline is not cruelty, it's self-respect. A common mistake is thinking discipline means denying yourself joy. Marcus Aurelius would completely disagree. For him, discipline was the highest form of self-respect. It meant saying, I value my future self enough to protect them from my present impulses. It meant creating habits that nurtured his body, mind, and soul. It meant rejecting anything that weakened his spirit, whether it was excessive luxury, lazy thinking, or chasing approval from others. True discipline doesn't make life smaller, it makes it larger, because you're no longer trapped by habits that harm you. Why this lesson matters today. We live in an age of constant temptation and distraction. Your phone, your fridge, your streaming service, they all compete for your attention and discipline. If you're not careful, they'll win, and you'll live a life reactive instead of intentional. Marcus's philosophy cuts through the noise. Discipline is not about living like a monk in a cave. It's about building habits that protect your peace and align your actions with your values. When you adopt discipline as a daily practice, you don't just get things done, you build a kind of calm power that nothing and no one can easily shake. And that, in Marcus Aurelius's eyes, is the foundation of an unshakable inner peace. Lesson 9, Acceptance, the art of finding peace in reality. Marcus Aurelius lived in a world that, much like ours, was filled with uncertainty, loss, and constant change. Wars raged on the borders, disease struck without warning, friends betrayed, and even those closest to him, including his children, were taken too soon. Yet, through it all, Marcus found a way to remain steady. How? By mastering the Stoic art of acceptance. Acceptance, in the Stoic sense, is not passive surrender. It is an active choice to align yourself with reality instead of exhausting yourself fighting against it. It's the deep understanding that life does not bend to your will, and that peace comes when you stop demanding that it should. Accepting that life is unpredictable. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This single sentence is a blueprint for inner peace. It tells us that the key to stability is not in controlling the chaos of life, but in controlling our reaction to it. Think about it. How much of our anxiety comes from wishing things were different? We replay past mistakes, imagining alternate outcomes. We stress over the future, desperate to predict and prepare for every possibility. In doing so, we fight against what is, creating mental turbulence. Marcus would say, life's unpredictability is not the enemy, your resistance to it is. Turning hardship into a teacher. Acceptance is not resignation, it's transformation. When you accept a hardship, you're not saying, I like this, or I want this. You're saying, this is here. Now, what can I learn from it? Marcus Aurelius didn't pretend that suffering was pleasant. But he believed that every difficulty carried a lesson, and if approached with the right mindset, it could make you stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. When Roman generals returned from victory, they were reminded by a servant, "Remember, you are mortal." This reminder was not to dampen their joy but to keep them grounded. Similarly, Marcus used challenges as reminders of his values, his mortality, and the need to act with virtue no matter the outcome. Accepting people as they are. One of Marcus's most overlooked strengths was his ability to accept the flaws of others without bitterness. He wrote about waking up each day expecting to meet the meddling, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious, the unsocial, and yet he resolved not to be harmed by them. This was not cynicism, it was preparation. By accepting that human nature is imperfect, Marcus spared himself the constant shock and disappointment that comes from expecting everyone to act ideally. This does not mean tolerating abuse or injustice. It means recognizing that people's flaws are part of life's landscape, and that your peace depends on how you respond, not on whether they change. The power of letting go. Marcus knew that much of our suffering comes from clinging to possessions, to people, to identities, to expectations. The Stoics saw attachment as a subtle form of slavery. When your happiness depends on something fragile or temporary, you are never truly free. By practicing non-attachment, Marcus could love deeply without being destroyed by loss. He could work tirelessly without being shattered if the results didn't match his hopes. This allowed him to remain engaged with life without being consumed by it. Acceptance is the foundation of resilience. Many people think resilience means pushing harder, fighting more, never stopping. But true resilience begins with acceptance. When a sailor is caught in a storm, he doesn't waste time cursing the wind. He accepts the wind's direction and adjusts his sails. Marcus applied the same principle to life: acknowledge the reality of the moment, then act wisely within it. This is why acceptance and action go hand in hand. Acceptance clears away the fog of frustration, giving you the clarity to make your next move. Why this lesson matters today. We live in a time where resistance to reality is almost encouraged. Social media is filled with complaints, outrage, and endless comparisons, all signs of a mind at war with what is. But Marcus Aurelius offers a different path, one where peace is not something you find when everything goes your way, but something you build by accepting life on its terms. Imagine the freedom of no longer being thrown off course by delays, disappointments, or the unpredictable behavior of others. Imagine responding to life's curveballs with calm, clarity, and confidence. That is the gift of Stoic acceptance. If you adopt this practice, your life won't suddenly become perfect, but your experience of it will change. You will stop wasting energy on wishing reality were different, and start using that energy to meet reality with strength. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "Love only what happens to you and is spun for you by nature." For what could be more fitting? Lesson 10. Gratitude, the anchor of a peaceful mind. If acceptance is the art of seeing life as it is, then gratitude is the art of loving life as it is. Marcus Aurelius, despite his heavy burdens as emperor, military leader, and philosopher, maintained an unwavering sense of appreciation for the simple, unchanging truths of existence. Gratitude, for Marcus, was not a seasonal feeling or a polite response to kindness. It was a deliberate practice, a daily discipline that grounded him, kept him humble, and reminded him of the abundance already present in his life. Gratitude begins with perspective. When you read Marcus's Meditations, you notice how often he reflects on the gifts of life, the privilege of waking up, the company of wise friends, the opportunity to act with virtue. He writes as if each moment is something borrowed from the universe, to be appreciated while it lasts. This is the opposite of entitlement. Entitlement says, "I deserve more." Gratitude says, "I already have enough, and more than enough." By shifting his perspective from what was missing to what was present, Marcus shielded himself from the poison of constant dissatisfaction. This mindset is a powerful defense against anxiety and restlessness because it trains you to focus on what is stable, instead of chasing what is always changing. Gratitude as an antidote to envy. Marcus understood that envy corrodes the soul. In his time, as in ours, people compared wealth, titles, and influence. But he saw envy as a trap that distracts from our own path. Gratitude disarms envy by reminding us of the richness of our own lives. It shifts the mind from scarcity to abundance. When you are truly grateful for what you have, the success of others stops feeling like a threat and becomes something you can celebrate without bitterness. Finding gratitude in adversity. Perhaps the most radical Stoic insight is that we can be grateful not only for pleasant experiences but also for challenges. Marcus thanked life for hardship because it gave him the chance to practice courage, patience, and resilience. Without difficulty, virtues remain theoretical. With difficulty, they become real. This doesn't mean pretending that pain feels good. It means recognizing that even pain can be a teacher. Gratitude transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth. The daily ritual of reflection. Marcus's writing suggests that he engaged in a kind of daily inventory, a mental check of what life had given him, both in joys and in trials. This ritual allowed him to close each day with a sense of completeness. Before sleep, he might reflect on the friends who stood by him, the wisdom he had gained, the beauty he had witnessed, or even the fact that he had survived another day in a dangerous world. This wasn't mere sentimentality. It was an intentional choice to end the day in peace rather than in resentment or worry. Gratitude strengthens resilience. Gratitude is not just a pleasant feeling, it's a form of mental armor. A grateful mind is harder to shake because it doesn't rest its happiness on perfect conditions. When you've trained yourself to appreciate life in all its forms, setbacks lose much of their sting. A delayed plan becomes time for rest. A loss becomes a reminder of the value of what remains. This perspective makes you unshakable, because you're no longer bargaining with life, "I'll be happy when." Instead, you've decided, "I'll be happy now." Gratitude connects us to others. Marcus Aurelius often expressed thanks for the wisdom of his teachers, the loyalty of his friends, and even the example, good or bad, set by those he encountered. Gratitude deepens relationships because it acknowledges the role others play in our lives. When you express appreciation, you not only strengthen your bonds but also remind yourself that you are not alone in your journey. In the Stoic worldview, this sense of interconnectedness is essential. We are all threads in the same tapestry, each contributing to the whole. Gratitude makes us aware of this unity, softening pride and increasing compassion. Practicing gratitude in a distracted age. Today, we live in a world where attention is constantly pulled toward what's wrong, breaking news, scandals, and the endless cycle of social comparison. In such an environment, gratitude is a radical act of resistance. It's choosing to pause, to notice the warmth of sunlight, the taste of your food, the sound of laughter, or the simple miracle of breathing. These moments are available to everyone, but they require awareness to be appreciated. Marcus Aurelius did not have a smartphone, but he had the same challenge: how to keep his mind on what truly mattered amid endless distractions. His solution was daily gratitude, which kept his focus anchored in the present and in what was within his control. Why this lesson matters today. Gratitude is the quiet force that turns survival into living, and living into thriving. It makes the ordinary extraordinary. It teaches us to see the gift in every moment, even the difficult ones. In practicing gratitude, you cultivate a mind that is less reactive, more present, and deeply anchored in peace. That's why Marcus Aurelius considered it an essential part of the philosophical life. It transforms not just how you think, but how you experience reality. As Marcus might say, do not imagine that you will live forever. Count each day as a separate life, and live it with gratitude. Lesson 11. Living in harmony with nature and reason, the final key to inner peace. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly returns to one central theme in his meditations: the idea that peace comes when we live in harmony with nature, not only the physical world but the deeper order of the universe, the logos, the rational principle that guides everything. This harmony is not about escaping life's storms, it is about learning to sail through them with purpose, dignity, and acceptance. It's the ultimate Stoic insight: the more aligned you are with the natural flow of life, the less you will be shaken by its unpredictability. Understanding nature in Stoic thought. When Marcus speaks of living according to nature, he doesn't just mean walking barefoot in the forest or breathing fresh air, although those things can help. For the Stoics, nature includes the entire system of the universe, the seasons, the life cycles, the cause and effect relationships, and above all, the fact that everything changes. To live in harmony with nature means to accept change as inevitable, to see events as part of a larger whole, and to recognize that we are but a small, yet essential, part of this vast order. Reason as our guiding light. The Stoics believe that human beings are unique in having the gift of reason. For Marcus, using this gift well meant making decisions that align with virtue rather than impulse. Fear, anger, and greed are all reactions that pull us away from reason. But when we act with clarity, patience, and justice, we are living as nature intended us to live. This doesn't just create moral strength, it produces inner peace, because our actions and conscience are no longer in conflict. Accepting what is beyond our control. The storms of life are constant: political unrest, illness, loss, betrayal. Marcus faced all of these and more. Yet his writings remind us, you cannot control the sea, but you can control the ship. Living in harmony with nature means releasing the illusion that you can bend the entire world to your will. Instead, you master the only territory you truly own: your mind, your choices, your attitude. When you stop fighting reality, You save your energy for what you can change, and that's where transformation happens. The paradox of strength through surrender. At first, surrendering to the flow of life might sound like weakness. But for Marcus, it was the opposite. By accepting what must be accepted, you conserve your strength for the battles that matter. Think of a tree in the wind. The rigid branch snaps under pressure, while the flexible one bends and survives. Living according to nature means becoming that flexible branch, strong at the roots, but adaptable in the face of change. Duty as the expression of harmony. Marcus often wrote about duty, to family, to society, and to oneself. Harmony with nature doesn't mean passive drifting. It means showing up fully in your role, whatever it is, and playing your part well. For him, peace came not from abandoning responsibility, but from embracing it with the right mindset. Your work, your relationships, your service to others, these are not distractions from your path, they are the path. The quiet power of acceptance. When you internalize the Stoic principle of accepting the natural order, your mind becomes a fortress. Misfortune still knocks at your door, but it no longer storms inside. You begin to see obstacles as inevitable features of the landscape, not personal attacks from the universe. This shift alone removes much of the suffering that comes from overthinking, resentment, or imagining life should be different than it is. Harmony brings freedom. Ironically, the moment you stop demanding that life conform to your desires is the moment you become truly free. You are no longer a prisoner of disappointment, because you have released the expectation that things will always go your way. Instead, every event, pleasant or painful, becomes raw material for virtue. This is what Marcus meant when he said, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. From philosophy to practice. It is easy to admire Stoic wisdom as beautiful words, but Marcus reminds us, philosophy must be lived, not just read. Living in harmony with nature and reason is not something you understand once and keep forever. It's a practice you return to every day, when plans change unexpectedly, when someone insults you, when life doesn't match your vision. Each moment is a test. Each choice is a chance to come back into alignment. Why this is the final lesson. All the previous lessons, acceptance, self-discipline, gratitude, reflection, lead here. Harmony with nature is the foundation upon which every other Stoic principle rests. Without it, your peace will be temporary, dependent on circumstances. With it, your peace becomes unshakable, because it is rooted in the deepest order of reality. Marcus's final reminder. If Marcus Aurelius could remain calm while ruling an empire plagued by war, plague, and political betrayal, it's because he never forgot this. Life is short, the world is vast, and our role is simple: to live well, to act justly, and to accept the flow of events with courage and grace. So let this lesson be your compass. When life feels chaotic, return to nature. Return to reason. Return to the quiet truth that you are a part of something greater, and your peace lies in playing your part with wisdom and love.